Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Our homage to our most venerable teacher Bhante, our Kalyanamitta Gurudevottama, Pinvat Loku Swamin Wahanse. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Venerable Bhantes in the monastery and everyone. I think we have a very nice episode today to talk about a Venerable Bhante who was extremely beautiful and beautified the Buddha's dispensation. Can you guess who that Bhante was? Today, we are going to talk about most venerable Mahakassapa Arahant Bhante. Do you know many things about Mahakassapa venerable Arahant Bhante? He was after the Supreme Buddha. He became the foremost Bhante in austere practices. Austere practices are the extreme practices. He followed 13 austere practices in Pali we say Dutanga. Mostly he lived in the forest monasteries. For many reasons he lived there. We will talk about that beautiful Bhante. Actually, he had 7 extraordinary body qualities like the Supreme Buddha. Supreme Buddha has had 32 great marks of the body. And this Venerable Mahakassapa Arahant Bhante had 7 extraordinary qualities, marks on his body. Because of that, the Arahant Bhante looked like Supreme Buddha when he was coming the ways. People sometimes confused that the Buddha is coming. This is what I have to share with you today. See, we will talk about that excellent Bhante, Mahakassapa. If you have been to the monastery in Polgahavali in Sri Lanka, this is the statue you can see. It's such a golden statue, a live Bhante. First, I give this chance to Hiru to read the first part of the lesson about Mahakassapa Venerable Bhante.
My Pinna's answer. Most Venerable Arahant Mahakassapa. Mahakassapa Arahantero, who was the greatest among monks, who cultivated austere ascetic practices, Dutanga. He was highly praised by the Supreme Buddha and divine beings as well.
Okay. Austere practices, Dutanga, extreme practices, living in the forest monasteries, eating only in the alms bowl. Maybe sometimes he lived in the not in a shelter. He lives outside of a shelter, maybe in the night too, during the night time, and he goes on his alms round, following each and every house, not avoiding any. Consequently, he goes on his alms round and such a thing. I like to talk about this drawing picture. This is drawn by Gayan Chanuka Vidana Patirana. for his book cover about Venerable Mahakassapa. That's such a beautiful drawing. See, the Bhante looks like very nice. Okay. Yes, Nani.
Mahakassapa came to the human world from the Brahma world and was born in the Brahmin castle in the Magadha country in the village Mahadita. He was called Pipali. Pipali grew up in the midst of wealth and luxury. Yet already in his young years he wished to leave the worldly life behind. He did not want to marry.
Sadhu, sadhu. So before coming to this human world, where he was? Where did he live? Dimal, is he here?
Brahma world, Samacha.
In the Brahma world, he was born to a Brahma world, and then he came to the human world, especially to meet the Supreme Buddha. He was very rich. He was born to a very rich, wealthy family in the Magadha country in India, in the Brahmin family, and it was a high class, high caste actually. And then Pippali was his name, Kashyapa was his family name, or maybe his clan. He was born to that clan. Pippali was his name. It's a beautiful name, huh? Pippali, you see the Pippali. And then he had everything in his family, maybe lots of properties he had, the estates and cultivations and cows and palace and castles. And then but you know, in the Brahma world, Brahma beings, they have very serene lifestyle. They do not engage in sensual desires. They do not enjoy in music like that. But with that experience, because of the good merit they collect, they were born in the Brahma world like Mahakassapa. And then because of that uh, less desire, when he came to the human world as well, he was like a very calm and peaceful person. He did not like to enjoy many things like the other people did. And even he did not want to get married because that mind was very calm, very peaceful, and less desire. We will continue on. Ramatu. Okay, if I talk about a little bit about this picture, this is the statue available in Malambe in Colombo in Sri Lanka, Mahameunavu Buddhist Monastery. If you go to Sri Lanka, do not miss to visit this beautiful monastery in Malambe, close to Colombo, that has a beautiful temple with Arahant Bhantes, Pacheka Buddhas, and the Supreme Buddhas statues and stories, beautiful things you can see there and you can venerate. This is the statue available in Malambe Monastery. Yes, Ramat.
When his parents repeatedly urged him to marry, he told them that he would look after them as long as they lived, but that after their passing away, he wanted to become an ascetic. Yet they asked him again and again that he take a wife. So to comfort his mother, he finally agreed to marry on the condition that a girl could be found who confirmed his idea of perfection.
Okay, sadhu, sadhu. So, but his parents wanted him to marry because the parents wanted him to to manage the properties, the wealth, and the fields, and the businesses and everything. But this Bhante rejected. But after the passing away his parents, he wanted to become a monk. Dimal. Youth Pippali Manamaka, you might say, Kassapa and Baddha Kapilani. That's the woman Mahakassapa got married to.
You're my son, Matza. For that purpose, he made a golden statue of a beautiful woman and decorated it with fine clothes and ornaments, and showed it to his parents, saying, "If you could find a woman like this for me, I can think about my marriage."
Father. So he was like a very talented person. Now he cannot reject his marriage. When the parents were like keeping asking to marry him, he rejected. No, I don't want to get married, and I want to take care of you, he said. But parents did not listen to them. Finally, he decided to do what? To make a beautiful statue with gold, a woman, it's a statue of a woman, and he said, if you can find a woman like this beauty, I can think about my marriage. Why? Why did he do that? Chandil, why did he do that? Chamudi, if you have any idea, why?
He did that because he thought that there wouldn't be a woman like that, so he wouldn't have to marry.
Yes, he knew that no one is here like this beauty. No one can find a woman be more beautiful like this, and then I will be free from that marriage. He might. Anyways, that trick was not true. Chandel, your chance to read.
His parents sent the image first to the mother country. There were found at Sagale a girl whose beauty equaled to the image. She was Buddha Kapilani, a rich Brahmin's daughter. But Buddha Kapilani also did not wish to marry. She wished to live a holy life as a female ascetic. When people heard about the girl, he wanted her to marry someone else, but their parents arranged their marriage.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Pipali is again the lay name of Mahakassapa, Arhan Bante. Badda Kapilani, that beautiful woman, was also came from Brahma world to meet the Supreme Buddha, not to anything else, not to get married, not to enjoy the human pleasures. No, she also came to the human world to meet Supreme Buddha. That's her last life as well. And then Mahakassapa Pipali Manavaka, when he created this beautiful statue, people found, oh, this statue is like Badda Kapilani. So they came to Mahakassapa's parents and said, there is a beautiful woman in the, what's the name of that city?
Mud.
Oh, Madda city. And then they arranged this marriage. Now people cannot reject because they found a woman like that beauty. So they arranged. Anyways, that marriage was very different. Minupa.
My son answer. So Badda Kapilani was taken to Magadha, and the young couple were married. However, with their ascetic desire, both agreed to maintain a life of celibacy. With their strong determination, they lay a garland of flowers between them on their bed, determining not to have sensual desire in their minds.
Sadhu. So both these people came from Brahma world, and then they do not have any desire for the real life. And then they agreed. Now they cannot reject their marriage from both sides. Even in the Badda Kapilani's family, the parents wanted her to get married, but they rejected. But they married and led a beautiful celibate life. They see the story goes. So our Pinot Lukuswaminas explains about that story in this very beautiful book, Acharya Manusa. And by talking that, Lokuswaminasa says, Even the Mahakassapa Venerable Bhante's lay life was that virtuous. Our Supreme Buddha's lay life, we cannot even think. The precepts, the virtuous behavior of the Venerable Bhante was amazing. When we think about that quality of the Venerable Bhante, how can we think about the Supreme Buddha's life? These time periods were very, very different, even we cannot think about. So anyways, they had this marriage life, but they led a celibate life. We will go ahead and then can you guess that how much time did they spend in their marriage life? Tiara.
In this way, the young wealthy couple lived happily and in comfort for 14 years. After the passing away of his parents, they decided to give up all their possessions and renounce to follow the Buddha's teachings.
That was their final decision. As long as their parents lived, they lived their lives happily, but a celibate life. After passing away, both of these people wanted to leave the family, wanted to renounce. They had, yes, you're reading next.
When both found themselves of one agreement, they shaved their heads, put on yellow robes, and had clay bowls, and became ascetic wanderers. They both came to their balcony, and they made the wish. Those who are arhants in the world, to them we dedicate our going forth.
So after passing away of their parents, I said that they wanted to become ascetics. They wanted to become monks and nuns. And then they shaved their heads and went to their balcony and said, they do not know about the Supreme Buddha. They do not know, they have not heard about the Buddha's appearance. And then they went to the balcony and said, if someone is there in this world who have achieved the highest goal, our monkhood will become for himself. We will become the disciples. They do not have any idea about the Supreme Buddha, but even though of that, they became monks. And he became a monk, and Bhadda Kapilani became a nun. See, it was such a beautiful time period. Aga, it's your reading now.
Hanging their alms bowl over their shoulders, the house servants and laborers followed them to the next village. Crying and lamenting, they fell to the feet of those two ascetics and exclaimed, "O beloved and noble ones, what do you want to make us helpless orphans? It is because we have seen the three worlds to be like a house of fire. Therefore, we go forth into the homeless life." Leaving the villagers behind, still weeping, Mahakassapa and Bhadda Kapilani continue on their road.
People loved them because of their good qualities. And then the people, they had maybe hundreds of servants in their fields, in their houses. They did not want them to leave the house because these beautiful couple like gold. They were like extremely beautiful, extremely noble, extremely kind, compassionate, good qualities they had. So the people did not want them to leave the house. They followed, they chased behind them and said, "Where are you going?" Then they said, "We renounce. We go from our home life into homelessness." Then they said that do not do that. Anyways, they said that this is not their life and they left. Tehan.
On their journey, Bhadda Kapilani followed close behind
Pipali Kassapa.
Kasper. Considering this, Kasper thought, now this, but the Kapilani follows me close behind, and she is a woman of great beauty. Some people could easily think, although they are ascetics, they still cannot live without each other. It is unsuitable what they are doing.
Sadhu, sadhu. Good reading. So now these two beautiful people were going on the road, Mahakassapa, Pipali, and behind Bhadda Kapilani. So Mahakassapa, Pipali thought that, oh, this beautiful woman is chasing by me. If the people see this, they might think that, oh, still they became monks, but still they like their lay life. They might think like this. So then it is not suitable to go together. So it should be better if we separate and go in two directions. Kemit.
When they reached the crossroads, Kashyapa said, "But the Kapila, you take one of these routes and I shall go the other." She said, "It is true, for ascetics a woman is an obstacle. People might think and speak badly about us. So please go your own way, and we shall now part."
Because they loved each other very much. Even though they said, yes, it's better you go this way and I will go this way. They do not have uh, any suffering in the mind about their living, any bad feelings about their minds, even though they had very close relationship in their lay life. Imasha and Shiva.
She then respectfully circumambulated him thrice, worshipped him at his feet, and with folded hands she spoke, "Our close companionship and friendship that has lasted for 100,000 eons comes to an end today. Please take the path to the right, and I shall take the other road."
Father, I give this chance to Linda to explain the meaning of this.
Namo Buddhaya Bante.
Namo Buddhaya.
At this point, Bhadda Kapilani, before they departed, circumambulated Mahakassapa Bante 3 times.
Please explain that word again.
Circumambulated.
Yeah, the meaning?
That means he goes around Mahakassapa Bante 3 times, keeping her right side of the body towards Mahakassapa Bante.
Exactly.
So go walk around 3 times and told Mahakassapa Bante that their friendship and companionship that has lasted for 100,000 eons.
100,000 eons.
100,000 eons.
Oh, that's
a long time.
They came together.
Yes, they have come along together. And that was the day when they really departed and walked their own spiritual path.
Thank you very much for your beautiful explanation. Tamudi.
Then they separated and went their individual ways, seeking the high goal of arahantship, final liberation from suffering. Then the great earth, shook by the power of their virtue, quaked and trembled.
See, it's something amazing. So because of the virtue of both people, Pipali and Bhadda Kapilani, the earth, the mother earth did not bear that and started shaking and trembling because of the virtuous power they had throughout the entire samsara for 100,000 eons. Now they separate. They go two directions, to the two directions, seeking for the liberation. So this earth did not bear about that. Sandesh.
The Buddha recognized about the shaking of the earth, and he thus knew that an outstanding disciple was on the way to him. He then set out on the road himself, walking the distance of 5 miles to meet his future disciple.
Now the Buddha living in maybe in Savatthi, I'm not sure anyways. Buddha saw that these two people left their house in search of the Buddha. And then the Buddha went on the way and sat. And with beautiful radiance, he was sitting. Yes, Ali.
On the road between Rajagahe and Nalanda, the master sat down under a huge banyan
Daniel?
banyan tree, waiting for his future disciple. When Kassapa arrived at the spot and saw the radiance of the Buddha's face, he thought, "This must be the master for whose sake I have gone forth."
Yes. Sadhu, sadhu. So when the Buddha was sitting, it was an amazing picture, and then people he was coming. And from the distance, he recognized the Buddha and thought, "This must be my master, for whose sake I have gone forth. This should be my teacher. I left my house in search of this master." And then he came to the Supreme Buddha, bowed and worshipped, and said, "Sattarahang javatahang passeyang bhagavantameva passeyang." English part.
If I should ever see the teacher, it is the Blessed One himself that I would see.
Sadhu, sadhu. He said, if I see a teacher, the Buddha is the teacher. Erin. Sugatang cha vatahang passeyang bhagavantameva passeyang.
If I should ever see the well-gone one, it is the Blessed One himself that I would see.
Sadhu, sadhu. With me. Samma sambuddhang cha vatahang passeyang bhagavantameva passeyang.
If I should ever see the perfectly self-enlightened one, it is the Blessed One himself that I would see.
Sadhu, sadhu. If I should ever see the perfectly self-enlightened one, which is the Supreme Buddha, it is the Blessed One himself that I would see. In the back, the book, you see that in Pali and in Sinhala, it's not clear, right? And in English book too, you have that in English. If I should ever see the teacher, it is the Blessed One himself that I see. That's how people Imanamaka recognize the Supreme Buddha and worshipped, bowing and worshipping the lotus feet of the Supreme Buddha, he said. And then maybe I remember that we read this before too. I want everyone to read this with me. He approached the Buddha, like he said this very far from the Supreme. Then he came closer, approached the Buddha, and paying homage, fell at his feet and exclaimed, you can say after me, "Satta me bhante bhagava savako hamasmi."
Tatta me bante bhagava savako hamasmi.
Venerable said, the Blessed One is my teacher. I am his disciple. Venerable Sir, the Blessed One is my teacher. I am his disciple. If you can actually say this to yourself, the Blessed One is my teacher. I am the disciple. You are a good disciple. Okay? Tinoli and Winidu.
Then the Supreme Buddha and Mahakassapa walked towards Rajagaha. On the way, the Buddha wanted to rest and went off the road to the root of a tree. Mahakassapa then folded his double robe fourfold and requested the Buddha to sit on it, as this would bring him, Kassapa, much benefit for a long time.
See, and then when the Buddha and Mahakassapa Bhante, when they were going to Rajagaha, the Buddha wanted to sit, and Mahakassapa Bhante took off his robe and folded into four and made a seat to sit to the Supreme Buddha and said, "Please, Bhante, for my benefit, use my robe to sit," said. Erin?
The Buddha sat down on Kassapa's robe and said, "Soft is your robe of patched cloth, Kassapa." Hearing this, Kassapa replied, "May the Blessed One, O Lord, accept this robe of patched cloth out of compassion for me."
So that's how Venerable Mahakassapa Bhante offered his robe to the Supreme Buddha, patched, old. It's not a new one. No, it's very fine, beautiful robe, and he offered to the Supreme Buddha as the seat. And then, having this, Kassapa replied, "May the Blessed One or the Lord this robe of patched cloth of out of compassion for me." And he said, "Minubar."
Sansa. But Kassapa, can you wear these rough, worn-out rag robes of mine? Full of joy, Kassapa said, "Certainly, Bhante, I can wear the Blessed One's rough and worn-out rag robes."
Now they are exchanging their robes. The Mahakassapa Bhante gave his robe to the Supreme Buddha, and then the Buddha gave the Buddha's robe to Mahakassapa Venerable Bhante. This was the first and only time, like we see in the dispensation, they had such a very close connection, like sharing robes. Now, Venerable Arahant, he's not an Arahant yet, so that Bhante was extremely happy to accept the Supreme Buddha's robe because it's from the Supreme Buddha. Until he passed away into his final Nibbana, he had that robe. Even we will talk about that later. And then Agassi.
This exchange of robes can be regarded as a great distinction bestowed on Kassapa, an honor which was not shared by any other disciple.
Good. So this is the only time we see such a thing. So they exchanging the robes. Okay. So both. Santutta Sutta. It is in connected discourses, Samyutta Nikaya, about contentment, about Mahakassapa Bhante. The Supreme Buddha praises the contentment of Mahakassapa.
At Savatthi, bhikkhus, this Kassapa is content with any kind of robe, and he speaks in praise of contentment with any kind of robe, and he does not engage in a wrong search, in what is improper for the sake of a robe.
The Venerable Mahakassapa Bhante is very content about the robes, and he did not want more. He was happy about whatever he had. He did not say more for robes. And even if he gets a bad robe, he is okay for that. Even if he did not get one, that was no any complaints from him. Linda.
Yes, Bhante. If he does not get a robe, he is not agitated. And if he gets one, he uses it without being tied to it, seeing the danger in it, understanding the escape.
Seeing the danger in it means, what's the danger in the robe? if we get attached to something, that's the danger, because that can cause suffering, that can cause very bad suffering in our life if we get attached to something. Seeing the danger in it, the Mahakassapa Bhante used everything, seeing the danger. Sandesh.
Bhikkhus, this Kassapa is content of any kind of alms food. Bhikkhus, this Kassapa is content with any kind of lodging. Bhikkhus, this Kassapa is content with any kind of medicinal request.
Sadhu, sadhu. So that's how the Buddha introduced Venerable Mahakassapa Bhante to the other bhikkhus, other sangha. So the Mahakassapa Bhante is very content about the robes, about alms food, about kutis, lodgings, dwelling places, and about medicines. Hey Sali.
Therefore, bhikkhus, you should train yourselves thus. We will be content with any kind of robe, and we will speak in praise of contentment with any kind of robe, and we will not engage in a wrong search in what is improper for the sake of a robe.
So that's the Buddha's advice to the other Bhantes. Canon?
If we do not get a robe, we will not be agitated. If we get one, we will use it without being tied to it, not blindly absorbed in it, seeing the danger in it, understanding the escape.
That's the Buddha's advice. Dinodaham.
We will be content with any kind of alms food. We will be content with any kind of lodging. We will be content with any kind of medicinal requisites. If we get them, we will use them without being tied to them, not blindly absorbed in them, seeing the danger in them, understanding the escape. Thus should you train yourselves.
Seeing the danger of it, you should train yourself thus. So that's the Buddha's advice to the Bhantes. So I said that Mahakassapa Venerable Bhante exchanged his robe with the Supreme Buddha, and he got the Supreme Buddha's robe. So until he passed away into final Nibbana at the age of 120. Until then, Mahakassapa Venerable Bhante used that robe. With that final Nibbana, he lived in the Gurupa or Kukkutapada mountain in India. Yeah, it's a beautiful mountain. On the top of that mountain, there's a beautiful cave. It's a small cave. He lived in that cave. And then with the final Nibbana, which is like when he was passing away, he got the Buddha's robe, the red robe into his hands. Huh? Until then, he respectfully used that robe and went into the cave. And then he passed away in that cave, being in that cave. And then all of a sudden, a huge stone came and closed the cave. And that was the final Nibbana of Mahakassapa Bhante. Still, that Mahakassapa Venerable Arahat Bhante's holy body remains. He is remaining in the cave with the robe on the hand, with the robe of the Supreme Buddha. Until when? Until the Maitreya Supreme Buddha is born in this world, that Mahakassapa Bhante's holy body remains in the cave. And when the Maitreya Supreme Buddha is born, the Buddha with Mahasangha comes to this peoply cave. It is the Kukkutapada cave mountain. And that Supreme Buddha introduces austere practices to Mahasangha. And he talked about, the Supreme Buddha talks about Venerable Mahakassapa Arahat Bhante. There was a beautiful Bhante in the Gautama Supreme Buddha's dispensation who had these 13 austere practices. When the Supreme Buddha says about this, Venerable Mahakassapa Arahant Bhante, that door opens automatically. And then the Bhante, it's a psychic potency, comes out of the cave. Not alive, it's a psychic potency. It's a miracle happens. And then that Bhante himself, he offered that Supreme Buddha's robe to Maitreya Supreme Buddha. And all of a sudden, that Mahakassapa Venerable Arahant Bhante's body was cremated, burnt into ashes. That's how our most Venerable Arahant Mahakassapa Bhante's life. So, after passing away of the Supreme Buddha, after the final enlightenment, the final Parinibbana of the Supreme Buddha, Gautama Supreme Buddha, Mahakassapa Venerable Bhante got the responsibility of the dispensation. He collected all the Dhamma preached by the Supreme Buddha and had councils and organized Bhantes, organized Arahant Bhantes to spread this Dhamma all over the world. Because of that, Venerable Mahakassapa Arahant Bhante, in Sri Lanka we got Dhamma. And in other countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, all these countries, they were fortunate to reach Dhamma because of Venerable Mahakassapa Arahant. And when Mahakassapa Bhante was alive, one tooth fell off his mouth and the other Bhantes respectfully got their tooth into their hands. Finally, that tooth was brought to Sri Lanka in Galle district in the southern province. They built a beautiful stupa and enshrined that tooth, which is called Galapatha. Galapatha is the name of that vihara, the temple. If you go to Sri Lanka, if you get the chance, do not miss that opportunity to go to that temple, worship the Mahakassapa Venerable Arahant Bhante's tooth. That's the only one and only thing in the human world that people can reach and worship about Arahant Venerable Mahakassapa. So, Venerable Mahakassapa Arahant Bhante was the foremost Bhante after Sariputta Venerable Bhante and Maha Moggallana Venerable Bhante. The third disciple of the dispensation was Mahakassapa Venerable Arahant Bhante. He came to this human world from the Brahma world, we said, and Pippali Manavaka, and then Bhadda Kapilani became a nun, and she was fortunate to become Arahant as well. They were freed from this sansaric journey, and they achieved the ultimate liberation of Nibbana in the dispensation of the Gautama Supreme. So may our respectful salutations to all these venerable Arahant Bhantes headed by the Supreme. Sad, sad, sad.